Also being debated in Parliament today is a proposed law that will help small firms hit by the COVID-19 pandemic to renegotiate or terminate their contracts without any penalties if a deal cannot be reached.
But the businesses will still be liable for any outstanding debts and obligations. The proposed framework is part of the latest set of amendments to the COVID-19 Temporary Measures Act.
I wish to emphasize that this is not a step that has been taken lightly, and we have very carefully considered both the implications as well as the scope of this framework. The nub of the problem for the mall tenant that I took the members through is that he has entered into a contract pre-COVID-19. The business environment and assumptions that he had then is very different today. Now, when all these assumptions are different, he is bound to a set of obligations that were designed at a very different time. And while business is not stagnant, no one could have predicted that the environment would have changed so dramatically, drastically, and fundamentally in such a short period of time. For the businesses that are not permitted to resume operations that I've sketched out earlier, the situation would be even more dire.
Under the proposed realigned framework, the businesses involved must be small, below a specified annual revenue. They should have also been badly affected by the pandemic. Singapore is home to 207,000 micro companies with annual revenue of less than $1 million and 44,000 small firms with annual revenues below $10 million.
The contract should have been entered into before March 25th, before the impact of COVID-19 was felt. The contracts covered under the framework include commercial property leases, the sale and purchase of goods and services, and rental or hire purchase deals for commercial equipment and vehicles, among other things. The framework doesn't cover consumer, employment and insurance contracts.
Now, in what specific ways will small and micro businesses be affected? Well, let's find out from Vice President of the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, Yuit. Hi there. Now, in an interview with our colleague Charmaine yesterday, you said the proposed framework would help small businesses that have suffered badly as a result of the pandemic. What kind of businesses would benefit the most from this? And if you could give us some examples.
Yeah, I think that overall, if you look at what's been happening in last 9 months, right, the most impacted really has been the Tier 1 and Tier 2. But in the recent lifting, we've seen the Tier 2 food and beverage in revenues going back to almost pre-COVID times, in some cases beyond. What we are still seeing is industries in the retail, and of course, you have aviation, travel, the MICE industry are still not seeing a return of the business. So specifically, if you really go to the malls, right, you're most likely going to see a lot of F&B outlets being crowded. Yep. But the retail, people are still not really spending the time to go shop and visit. So that is where we are seeing some of the sectors of the SMEs that are impacted here. That's not seeing an immediate return. And that's where this, I think, would really help them.
I see. Yuit, are you able to elaborate as well as to what kind of contracts do these sectors possibly have to renegotiate because of this proposed amendments?
Yeah, I think a lot of it centers around rental, right? So you may find that rental constitutes a large portion, especially in the retail sector, and you may see hire purchase, or in some cases leasing, that's also covered by this bill and also impacted. So for them, you may see that the business has kind of restructured, or the demand has kind of gone away, and it may not be coming back soon. And this bill really allows them to really look at the fact that the situation has impacted them, and it's not something that they planned, and it's really outside of their ability to plan, right? And this would allow them to walk away or negotiate for better position so that they can come out stronger.
Right. Yuit, the proposed realigned framework doesn't cover consumer, employment and insurance contracts. But do you think what's being proposed is comprehensive enough?
I think, if you look at what they're targeting primarily the small and medium enterprise space, right? And really focus around the micro and small. And these are really the enterprises from our own experience in the last few months, right, we've seen that the bargaining power and the negotiation position for these enterprises not having enough against, let's say, the landlords or the counterparties that are a lot bigger and having the resources and finances. So I think this really helps the SMEs that are really troubled or in a situation, and they don't have the resources to deal with what's needed in the contracts.
Well, Yuit, another aspect of the proposed law is providing small and micro businesses with a 6-week window to decide if they want to terminate their contracts early without penalty. The parties then will have 4 weeks to renegotiate the terms. Is this time frame sufficient, or is it too restrictive nonetheless?
Yeah, I think that, given if you really look at how it's panned out, especially like in the previous bills, right, around rental relief, we think that more time can be considered because it may take a bit of time, and sometimes SMEs may have fires to fight as well. So giving a little more time flexibility may actually be helpful.
Right. And in that regard, do you see any points of contention?
Okay, what we have seen, right, is that from our experience looking at the rental relief, which was passed into law, where you either get 2 months or 4 months, rent relief, we've seen cases where the institutional landlords, especially the larger ones, they actually do not abide by it, or they continue to stick to the contracts. And in this situation, we do see potential challenges in the contractual part where you may get a repeat of this kind of situation. So I think it would be good that this area is also addressed, or some means of recourse is available.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Yuit. We've been speaking to Yuit, VP at the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises.